here so promptly. This is definitely a record. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this really special evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. On behalf of my father, Mr. Leon Wilds, and on behalf of Jill and my kids who are here, Yosef, Yehuda, and Abigail, my brother, Michael, and sister-in-law, Amy. It is a true honor to welcome all of you to what is now the 23rd annual memorial talk in memory of our mother, Ruth Wilds, Aleha Shalom. As you can hear, we've been doing this for a couple of years. Before I say my introductory words, I want to just thank a couple of people that made not only tonight's program possible, but everything that happens at MJE possible. I want to start with my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Ezra Cohen, who's the MJE Downtown Director and now COO of MJE. Tara, who is standing in the back. Tara Neuer, for doing so much work on tonight's program. Our dear friend, Rabbi Penny Rosenthal. Perfect timing. Rabbi Joshua Klein, who just walked in the back. Ruthie Rothman-Schulman, our Educational Director. Laura, who's setting up the wonderful refreshments in the other room. And Eitan, who's standing in the back and is videoing us tonight, our Communications Director. We thank you, Eitan, for everything you do for MJE. And you should know that every Wednesday night, one-on-one learning takes place in this room. We mushed everybody into the room across the hall, and I want to thank Chani Proman, who's been for 18 years with MJE, helping us run our one-on-one learning program. We are privileged this year to hear from an incredible personality and motivational speaker. He's one of the people that you can actually listen to after a long day of work, and you'll still remain conscious for most of the talk. But before I call on Charlie Harary to speak, I wanted to share a brief word with you about my mother, Aleha Shalom, whose Hebrew name was Pesel Abigail, about Menachem, in whose memory MJE was founded 20 years ago. It's 20th year that we're celebrating. And I want to wish my brother a mazel tov. He just became mayor of Englewood. Great entrance, Michael. Always has to shine. Anyway, so in the Parsha that we're now reading, please come in. Jacob, if you can silence your phones, if you don't mind, thank you. So in the Parsha we are reading, Jacob asks his sons to go down to Egypt because there's a famine that's ravaging the land of Israel. And Judah tells Jacob they can't go without Benjamin. This viceroy, the second in command, is giving them a hard time. The second in command, of course, is Joseph. They don't even know it's Yosef. And he accuses them of being spies. And Judah is telling his father that we can't get any food from Egypt and we will starve to death if we don't bring Benjamin with us. We need him to verify our story because we're being accused of being spies. And Jacob refuses. Jacob has already lost his beloved Joseph. He's not going to lose another son. But when Yehuda tells him, Anochi Eravenu, I will personally guarantee him. I will take care of him. Miyadi tevakshenu, my own hand you can demand him from me. We see that Jacob begins to relent. And he allows them to take Benjamin. The question is why? Why does Jacob now allow Benjamin to go? Because of this one line that Judah recites before his father. Anochi Eravenu, I am his guarantor. And the rabbis explain that because he's finally seeing a son of Leah taking responsibility for a son of Rachel. You see, Jacob, we know, married two sisters. We don't recommend this. And his beloved Rachel had 2 sons. And those were Joseph, of course, and Benjamin. And the children of Leah resented the children of Rachel. And Yehuda was the first to put a stop to this. Yehuda was one of the sons of Leah. And he's the first one to say that we need to take care of each other. And so when Jacob hears Yehuda say those words, Anochi Erevenu, that I am his guarantor, not only about their biological blood brother, but about their half-brother, then he feels okay letting Benjamin go. And again, in this week's Parsha, after Benjamin is brought down to Egypt to prove they're not spies, Yehuda stands up and he says, Ki avdecha arav et hana'ar. He says to Joseph, he doesn't know it's his brother. He says, your servant, I have become a guarantor. I have a sense of arevus, of responsibility for this younger brother of mine. And that's when Yosef loses it. That's when he breaks down. And he says, Ani Yosef, ha'od avichayim, Joseph is my father still alive. It's the concept of arevus, of taking responsibility, that basically puts this family back together. And this is really something that defined our mother's life. She was first and foremost dedicated to our family, to her husband, to her children, but she had this almost innate sense of responsibility and concern for other people. Her friends, some of her dear friends are here tonight and coming each and every year to this memorial lecture. But even to complete strangers. And my brother and I always talk about this one elderly gentleman in our community. He was a bachelor who lived in the projects in Forest Hills, Queens, where we're from. And he was always meticulously dressed. When we used to go to his apartment, even though he lived alone, he would answer the door wearing a 3-piece suit. And he had a lot of dignity, a lot of pride, but he was alone. And when he hit the age of 80, he suffered a heart attack. And Baruch Hashem, thank God he survived, but there was no one there to take care of him. And he didn't have enough money to have somebody move in, to go to some other place. So there were a number of people from the community that tried going over with food, but he refused. He had way too much pride and dignity to be the recipient of sort of handouts. So Rabbi Grimblatt, blessed memory, who was our rabbi in Forest Hills, he called my mother and asked if she would get involved. And she showed up the next day at this gentleman's home. She knocked on the door. She had a bouquet of flowers and a newspaper. And he slowly allowed her into his apartment. And it was so dark, she said. And she very respectfully asked if it would be okay if she could open the shades a little to let a little light in. And she just stayed for a few minutes. And then she left. And then she came back again. And she kept doing this until she won over his confidence. She was so respectful of his dignity, of his meticulousness. She cooked for him. I remember all these dishes. She used to make everything without the salt. And she continued to visit him regularly until she prevailed and got him to come to our home for a Shabbos meal. And this made a huge impact on my brother and I. He loved being at our Shabbos table. It was a great Shabbos table. And he took an interest in us. He started opening up to us, and it was like he was alive again. Our mother literally brought this man back to life. And we have all these stories. I'm just here to introduce, so I'm going to stop. But she really cared about other people. She had that sense of arevus, of responsibility. And people felt that when they came to our home. When I was in rabbinical school and for my internship, I started a beginner service for young Jewish people in Forest Hills. And I didn't really have anywhere to bring them for meals. I was single. So I schlepped them home. And my mother, who was a yekka, our home was a museum. You couldn't walk in with the shoes. She took everybody with a smile. She got involved in their lives. She cared. And when people ask how MJE really began, I always say it started at our mother's Shabbos table. It began with our family's humble attempt to perpetuate and to somehow mass produce, if you will, the kind of hachnasat orchim, of hospitality and warmth and loving concern that she had for so many others. And it's that sense of arevus that really is the foundation for everything that MJE has done and continues to do these last 20 years. The thousands of men and women who we attract to our Shabbos dinners in our 3 locations to ensure that every Jew gets a taste of the beauty of Shabbat. The many other participants we set up at homes and families in the neighborhood. The inspirational minyan in this room that Rabbi Shuki runs every Friday night, and Shabbat morning, hundreds of people who come here to daven, even if their Hebrew isn't so great. It's the opportunity to take responsibility for everyone, because Judaism isn't just for those who were raised with it. And so the retreats and the Shabbatonim and the trips to Israel, it's all an expression of arevus, of responsibility, and our mother inspired us to have, to ensure that all Jews be given the opportunity to be connected and to grow and to celebrate their Judaism. And that's why it is so appropriate that we're holding this lecture here tonight, where all of our classes, where we've been for 20 years. And I want to recognize the many fellows, the MJE fellows and senior fellows that are here tonight. Give it up for yourselves. These are our individuals who are devoting 3 hours a week to learning, capped off with an amazing trip to Israel. We are very, very proud of you. Our mother would have loved and cooked for every one of you, and she would have adored our speaker tonight, someone that I have had the honor and pleasure of knowing for many years. Charlie Harary, who is just an awesome personality. So excited to have you here tonight. The business executive, author, prolific speaker, known internationally for his passionate talks and seminars. He is currently the CEO of H8 Advisory LLC, which is an investment and advisory company based here in New York. He is the author of the best-selling book, Unlocking Greatness, published by Random House just last year. And his podcasts, his videos, his radio show has reached hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, providing positive message of spirituality in terms of business, personal growth, and just insights into the human condition that can be helpful to each and every one of us. Charlie was previously an executive at R&R Realty, and before that he was an associate at Paul Weiss, Rifkin, Wharton, and Garrison. There's some more words there, but it's just too long. He got his JD from Columbia Law School, where he was awarded all these wonderful degrees, and he's just an awesome, awesome guy, and it's a true honor to be able to host him and to teach some Torah in our mother's memory with all of you tonight. Thank you all for being here, Mr. Charlie Harary.
It's truly an honor to be here. I may just redecorate if that's okay. All right. Barely sit in class. I can't stand on my mic. Okay. It's really an honor to be here. When you get to hear stories of a woman like your mom who built a family, and someone who has passed over 20 years ago, but her impact is still so felt in such a tangible way, it shows how special she is and how incredible she is. And her legacy lives on with all of you, with what you're doing, and with the grandkids and everything else, and this incredible center. And my bracha to your family is that you should have the good fortune to give your mom so much nachas in Shemayim. May she look down tonight and everything that you're doing and feel so much pride, because I'm sure she has it from all of you. And all of us should really spend our lives having simcha, and your family should only know simcha and bracha at Bias Kol Mashiach. It really is such an incredible honor to be here. MJE is so famous. Like, everybody knows at MJE. I never got called once to speak here. I tried. They're like, get out of here. We know who you are. I'm just kidding. And I got the call. I'm like, yeah, call me in, coach. I'm in the bullpen. Just, yeah, definitely, I'm in. So I've been sleeping here all week. It's okay. I have 6 kids. I've been here all week, and I'll be here all week, right? It's a 1 week program, I told my wife. So this is a one-week memorial lecture. But it's really an honor to be here, and thank you everybody for taking so much of your time to come out, and everybody worked so hard, and tomorrow is still in the middle of the work week, and to be here tonight means a lot to me and a lot to the family, and thank you so much. You know, you look around the room, and the first thing that you're struck with is how different we all are. Just going around and seeing people, we dress different, we look different, we've got different styles, different jobs, different things we like and don't like, different tastes. And it's hard not to be struck when you walk into this room, and honestly in most rooms, and be just sort of like taken by how different each person really is. But if you go one step deeper, what you find is that as different as we look, we're all exactly the same. We use different words. We say it in a different way. But at the end of the day, when you go to bed at night and you get that feeling, either that incredible feeling of I can't wait for tomorrow, or that feeling of disappointment, and you say something to your friend or your spouse or to your whatever it is, when you actually are saying the words, they may be different words, because you may have a different particular in your life, but what's going on behind the words, what the energy that's powering the words, is the same exact thing. We all want the same thing, even if it manifests differently, I believe. We all want a certain type of life. We want to get to the end of our lives. We want to feel something. I believe every single one of us is exactly the same, and that we all want to be great. We want a great life. We want to look back at the end of it and go, you know, I had ups, I had downs. I had good days and bad days. But I lived a great life. I am mediocre doesn't come off our tongues, because as we say it, we know it's not true. When you raise kids, the worst thing a kid can tell a parent is, Mom, Dad, you just don't know me. Like, I'm not great at math. I tried for 3 minutes and I can't do it. I'm a people person. And you're like, well, you didn't even try. I have no friends. I tried, I came to school, and it's like, no. Don't give up on this. There's no way I'm letting you off the hook by saying that you're not great, because deep down, that's what we want for ourselves. But how do we get greatness? Where does it come from? So I wrote a whole book on it. I spent a lot of time researching it. That's a whole science-backed approach to those who get the book. But what I want to do tonight is talk about Judaism's perspective. In my humble opinion, what is God? What does Judaism push us towards as we define our greatness? Where does it come from? Where do we reach it? Where do we find it? What makes us great? Is it how much money? Is it how we got? Is it the competition of life? Who's ahead on the treadmill? Is it who has the most honor? What is the metric that we can walk away with tonight and ask ourselves, am I on the path to living a great life? The essential element of Jewish greatness. And it so happens to be that it is this week's Torah portion. That is incredible coincidence. Well, there's no coincidence. So I want to begin by telling you how I got my first job. So as you heard, I went to Columbia University, which is not too far from here. And when you go to Columbia, what they do once you get your grades in your second year, they don't have all the law firms come down to the campuses, because that would be just crazy. And they don't have all the students just go to the law firms, because that would be nuts. What they do is they take all the law firms, they take all the students, and they put us in a hotel in the DoubleTree in Times Square for 3 days of binge interviewing. It's like, forget it. It's like game theory as to who you can put in, because you can't go too high, you won't get a job. You can't go too low, you set yourself short. So you got to figure out, like, which firms do I go for? Everybody rents a suite, and it's just like craziness for 3 days. So I remember I was a law student there. I had this one firm I wanted to work for. I wanted to work for the waspiest firm I can get to. Because you know why? Because I'm a Jewish boy from Brooklyn, and my grandparents speak Yiddish. I wanted mahogany walls. I wanted Roman numerals after your name. I wanted your grandparents to come from the Mayflower. You had to live in Connecticut. You had to have a boat. I want the whole deal. I didn't want to work for a Jewish law firm. I wanted to work for WASPs. The number one WASP law firm that I could find was a firm called Davis, Polk & Warren. Love it. But I did well, but not that well. So I didn't even put them down. Because you know what, I got to get a job too. So we get there the first day. And if you remember, this was, by the way, in around 99, 2000. And in those days, weird stuff happens. Like you went to college or law school and you got a job. That whole connection. Weird things. Like you went to law school, someone hired you as a lawyer. Like there was this weird stuff that happened back then. I don't know why. So the first day of interviewing, everyone's getting these offers. But it was 3 days of interviewing. So all these people are like, whatever, I got extra offers. Like, and they're just chucking it and they're going out. But like, wait, I'm a Jew. You know, like, my mom taught me, if it's free, you take two. That's how it works. I don't know. It's 3 days. Maybe they're giving out tote bags of bagels. I don't know. I'm not giving up extra stuff. So 3 days, on the third day, basically everyone's packed out with their offers, partying. And it's like me and like, I kid you not, 3 other Jews in a massive conference room just waiting there like, I don't know, it's not over yet. Who knows, maybe they're giving out the bags after this. And there's this massive screen with all of the interviews. And you're seeing each one, they're like live. You know, available, 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 available. Because everyone's just chucking interviews. And the lady who's running the thing is like, available, available. And on the last day, the 5:30 interview on day 3, it said Davis, Polk, and Wardwell. And I'm sitting there, and it says, available. And I'm like, should I do it? I'm not even gonna get it. I'm like, it's a waste of time, but I'm here already, but I don't know. Should I? Shouldn't I? I don't know. Should I do it? I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It's okay, no problem. I got this. I'm just asking for an interview. Like, forget about it. I walk in. I'm like, I'd like to put my name down. She said, okay, sit down. I'll let you know if you get the interview. She sit down. 2 seconds later, it says Davis, Polk, and Wardwell, Charles Harary. I'm like, here goes nothing. I go upstairs to the interview, and as I walk in, I realize this is going to be the worst interview of my entire life. You see, the partner that they filled the 5:30 slot on the last day of a 3-day interviewing when nobody's left was a brand new partner that just flew in from China. He spoke no English. I speak no Chinese. That makes for an amazing interview. I'll tell you a funny story. I have a neighbor across the street. I kid you not. This guy is a laid-back American guy. I mean, like, in the morning, he's got a cigarette in one hand, a cup of coffee, enjoying the day. He married a hot-blooded Israeli woman. He speaks, I kid you not, no Hebrew. She speaks no English. Don't understand what your wife says? They say it's bliss to the end. I don't know. I wake up in the morning, he's outside, she's screaming words. I didn't even know her Hebrew anymore. And he's like, what is she saying? I'm like, you should go in the house right now. Like, she's Israeli, she can kill you with her eyes right now. So I get in the room, he looks at me and goes, what's your name? I didn't understand the word that he said. I said, can you repeat the question? He said, name. I'm like, okay, I've almost got this. Just slow it down. He's like, name. I'm like, oh, name. I totally know this answer. I'm like, Charles Harary. Then he asks me, why do you want to be a lawyer? I only heard, do you want to be a lawyer? Why do you want to be a lawyer? Yes. And he's like, what? And I'm like, what happens next? I'm like, yay contracts, go juries. He's like, then he realizes that I'm a total moron. But you gotta give the student 22 minutes or something, so he's got nothing to do. So he puts his head down, I kid you not. You know how long 22 minutes is in silence? I do, it's painful. He puts his head down and for 22 minutes starts to analyze my resume. Now, if you go to yeshiva like I went to, and you go to Israel for like 2 years, and then I don't know what to do with your time, you know, like anyone who goes to yeshiva, like they gotta fill your gap. They make you like give you all these like extra Talmudic degrees. You know what I'm talking about? Like everyone's like a Talmudic master. So he looks up. I kid you not. Looks up at me after 20 minutes and he goes, Talmud? And I'm thinking he didn't say Talmud, right? I'm like, what rhymes with Talmud? I'm like Almud, Balmud, Talmud. I'm like, I'm sorry. Did you say Talmud? So he goes, you know Talmud? And I'm thinking, I don't know where he is going, but I like it. I'm like, yeah, he goes, I just got in from China. I'm like, yeah, I can tell. And he says, in my first week, they brought me around to meet all the partners. And one of the partners happened to have been an Israeli partner, was one of the greatest tax attorneys in the firm. He was recommended by a previous prime minister. He was like this incredibly brilliant attorney. And I walked into this man's office, and on his wall were the tax codes. But on the corner of the wall was a different color binding. And I said to the man, excuse me, sir, in the corner there's a different binding. It looks like different letters. What's that? And the man said to me, that is a Talmud. If you think the tax codes are hard, the Talmud is 10 times harder. He looks at me and goes, you must be a genius. I'm like, well, I don't like to brag. I just pretend to be a moron to make you feel more comfortable. I walk out of that room, and I'm like, I don't know if there's like a birthday party in heaven for one of the angels. I remember the good old days where like you went to a phone by a wall. Remember those days where like, it's weird. Anyone that is your 20, it's an incredible exercise. Explain to them that used to be a time where you put coins in walls and picked up a phone. They're like, did you get your water from the well? And I called my wife, and she's like, I don't know, Davis Polk and Orwell called like 10 times for you? I'm like, I know, don't worry about it. When I get to Davis Polk, they're gonna realize that I'm not Davis Polk material. Meanwhile, God's like, Charlie, I am just getting started with you. So anyone here lawyers, you know the drill, right? You get to the big firms and you gotta do the deal, right? No, everyone, you can say the same thing. No, I don't want to see sunlight for the next 10 years. I like documents all day. Please, caffeine is my best friend. And they're like, you're just like one of us. And you're like, exactly. And you go. And then how much can you tell in an interview? So what they do in these big firms is they take you out to lunch. And they bring you to two people that you can schmooze, and then they get to see the real you. So I go out to lunch to a place called, I think it was Prime Grill, Lava Shalom, right? Remember the one on like... Right? Wasn't there one like in Park Avenue, that area? Do you remember that? So I went to Prime Grill, and I go with a woman about my age and a man who's a good 7-8 years older than me. The woman is awesome, schmoozy, talking, bubbly, amazing. The guy doesn't say one word. I don't know why they picked this guy. Stiff as a board, barking orders at the waitress the whole time, just cutting his food, silent. So how much small talk can you make with somebody? So after like a while, halfway through the meal, it's like nothing left. So it just gets quiet. And he turns to me in the middle of the meal. And he goes, so, I see you're a Jew. I'm like, oh, okay. The gravy train is now at the station. I'm like, what gave it away? The cloth on my head? So he said, well, if you're a Jew, it's an honor to meet you. I said, okay. He said, before I went to law school, I was a U.S. Marine. And us Marines respect nobody but the Israeli commandos. And I'm thinking, he thinks I'm an Israeli commando. I'm like, that's right, Sergeant, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Charlie. I was rappelling off the Mediterranean with my Talmud in one hand. Chicken's kid, I killed it. It's a Mossad trick you don't know about. And at that point, I realized I am getting this job. My first job was with Davis Polk and Wardwell. I am getting this job. So I'm like, you know what? I got this. Guess what? Now I'm doing the interviewing. So I lean back, I order my fake creme brulee, and I say, excuse me, Mr. U.S. Marine, where do you get off saying that there's anyone in the world you respect more than the U.S. Marines? He told me the greatest thing ever. He goes, I was born in Texas. My grandfather served this country. My father and uncle served this country. My brothers all served this country. When I came out, you know what I was doing? I was going to go into service. Because that's what our family does. They go into service of our country. And I wasn't a good Marine. I was a great Marine. And I would always do the best that I can. Remember, this is like the 90s. So this is the time where before like 9/11. Remember the days before 9/11? Remember how crazy we used to be before 9/11? Like, remember we used to like go on planes with our shoes on? Like it was like, remember those days? You make a cup of coffee and like just bring it on the plane. Because we would go and fight wars, but like we would go out and we'd be peacekeepers. And like I never understood. At the end of the day, I believed in liberty and justice and freedom. But thank God, God blessed America with these traits. And then I was chosen to be picked to go to a special training session with Israeli commandos. And I flew to Israel for 2 weeks. And we did joint exercises together. At the end of the 2 weeks, they brought me to a hill called Masada. And on the top of this hill, they sat me in a figure and a half, a semicircle. And the commander got in the middle of the room and said the following. Do you know what you're here for? He said. Because a long time ago, the Romans came and burned the temple. And a bunch of Jews ran away. You know what they wanted to do? They just wanted to be Jewish. They don't want to take over any territory. They don't want to hurt anybody. They just want to be left alone so they can practice their Judaism in peace. You know what happened? The Romans wouldn't have it. And they came chasing after them. And these Jews looked to the right, but there's no one there to save them. And they looked to the left, and no one was there to save them. And when the Romans came up, all these Jews took their lives. You know what we're here for, he says? Because the Jews are back in their homeland, and we're done looking. We don't need anybody to take care of us anymore. We'll take care of ourselves. We don't need anybody to come and save us from anything. You know what? We'll save ourselves. We'll defend ourselves. We'll protect ourselves. We'll build an army for ourselves because guess what? We're back, and we are never leaving ever again. And sitting on that mountain, he said, I finally got it. Because I have questions about you people. What is that about you people? I have questions about, because how do I go from a Holocaust thing that happened in the 40s to stories about one of the greatest maneuvers in the history of warfare that happens in the 60s? How is it possible that a nation in 20 years can be walked to the slaughter and then be teaching the rest of the world how to run wars? How is that humanly possible? He goes, but I got it now. Because you people know who you are. You're the nation that came home. And you know what you're fighting for. You're not fighting for an ideal. You lose a border, you lose a country. You're fighting for your mother's backyard. And if you know who you are, and you know what you're fighting for, you can accomplish anything. I got to tell you, there isn't a day in my life that goes by where sometime in my morning routine, I don't hear that voice again and again. You ever get this feeling in life that like we're spinning our wheels but we're not getting there? You ever get this sense that like, I don't know how much harder I can work. I'm exhausted at night. I crawl to Shabbos. I got nothing left, and yet I don't feel like I'm killing it in life. With all that I have, with all the talents that I know I have, and all the resources and the connections and the effort that I put into my life, how come when I go to bed at night, I don't feel like I'm killing it? The tires are spinning, but they're not going anywhere. Or they're not going far enough. You ever get that feeling? Do you know why? It's not because we're not working hard. It's not a question of effort. It's a question of clarity. Because if you don't know who you are, and you don't know what you're fighting for, then you can't accomplish the thing that you're here for. And every single day, I kid you not, every single day, I went there a long time ago, at some point, that guy's voice, if you know who you are, and you know what you're fighting for, you can accomplish anything. So who are we? And what are we fighting for? So the answer is found actually, we're like in the middle of the week, and the answer is found in the middle of last week's Torah portion and this week's Torah portion. Because in this week's Torah portion, there are two words that I believe is the secret to who we are and what we're fighting for. I know it's late. Just give me a few minutes and just sit back. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm actually going to tell you a Bible story. This is Torah stuff. But I'm going to say it in a story because I see the world through like movies. So just like this is how I would, put it on the screen. One story. And nestled in this story, if you're with me, is the secret to who we are and what we're fighting for. So let's tell it. The story begins with Jacob. If you know it, you'll follow through it. If not, I'll tell as much as I can. Remember, Jacob is an incredible figure. But Jacob, this Torah goes out of its way to say that he loved a woman. These are superhuman people. They're not regular people. And the fact that the Torah tells us that he loves this woman is unbelievable. And she is the love of his life, and he works for years and years and years, and he finally marries his Basher, his spiritual connection, Rachel, and she dies. We forget that there are people that he loses the love of his life, and he is broken over it. However, when she dies in childbirth, there was already an 8-year-old son named Joseph. And Joseph looked like her and talked like her. And he turns to Joseph and he says, you're going to be her legacy. I lost your mother. I missed your mother. She was the love of my life. There isn't a day that I don't think about her. But at least I know that in you will carry her legacy. And all the brothers go to become shepherds. And Jacob says, I can't send you to be a shepherd. You got to stand next to me. You got to be near me. I can't. Every morning I think of your mom. I just want you to be. And he gives him a special coat. And he puts him next to him. And he grows up. And Jacob is 8 years old. And he grows up. And he's 9. And he's 10. He's bigger. He looks like her. And he pours his love into this kid. And at least her legacy will live on in his kid, in her kid Joseph. And Joseph gets bigger, and Joseph gets bigger, and he gets born, and he's 16 years old, and he's 17 years old, and Jacob has some measure of comfort knowing that although Rachel has passed, at least Joseph will carry on in her legacy. And then one day he says to Joseph, do me a favor. Your brothers are on the town over, do you mind? And he said, remember the story? He sends over to see his brothers. And let me tell you what, listen, boys will be boys. You know what I'm talking about? At the end of the day, anyone here grew up in an all-boys house, there's like no rules. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you live your life in a toilet bowl. That's just how it works. Just welcome home, flush. Just how it is. And like, there's no like, Oh, that was bad. Just the world. My kids go to an all-boys school. It's like unbelievable. My girls go to the bus picks up my girls. It's like an all-girls school. I'm like, I remember when they first got on the bus. I have identical twin girls. And when they first got on the bus, I was so nervous putting my girls. And like the bus pulls up, and like some 8th grader comes out, and she's like, "Oh, twins! We'll take care of you. We'll make pigtails. We'll talk about our lives. It'll be so wonderful." I'm like, I love girls. And the boys' bus pulls up, and you can see the fear in the eyes of the bus driver. I'm like, "Where are you going?" He's like, "Wherever they'll take these kids." And then a body part flies over his head, and my son goes, "Daddy, I'm scared." I'm like, "You will get on that bus." And he comes home and he's all roughed up, and my wife's like, "I'm calling school." I'm like, "You give all your limbs?" He's like, "I think so." I'm like, "Give all your limbs, or you'll get back on that bus." Because they're boys. That's how it works. And when there are women around, it normalizes us. That's why we come and that's how it. But if there are no women around, we just go into Psychoville. 16-year-old kids will stand on a roof and they'll be like, "I bet you can't jump off the roof with your head." It's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "I bet you can't dive off the roof 10 stories. The kid's like, "I could do it." "No, you can't. Watch me." And then he'll just do it. And then you go, "Why'd you just do that for?" You're like, "I don't know, he told me I couldn't do it." I'm like, that's the extent of your logic? I'm a guy, there's no women around, I don't know. He's got 10 brothers. Stuff happens. Let me tell you what will never happen. You'll never have a bunch of boys come in a house, and one kid comes home from school, and the other brother's like, "Listen, it's a tough economy. I heard I get $20 for you if I send you to Tijuana. So, hasta luego." Joseph shows up, they're like, "Yo, listen, it ain't working." It's like, "What, you joke? No, I'm sorry, I had told you about the dream. I feel bad," but like, they're like, "See ya." And Joseph is gone, but guess what? The brothers come home, but I want you for a second to be Jacob for a second. And he's waiting by the window. He's like, "Where did Joseph go?" And he sees the brothers coming. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's like, where's Joseph? And he goes, "Guys, you see Joseph?" They're like, "No, we didn't see him." I'm like, "What do you mean? I sent you Joseph like a bunch of hours ago." He goes, "We didn't see him." He goes, "Dad, how do you?" He goes, "What do you mean? How did you not see Joseph?" He's like, "I don't know. I sent you." He goes, "I sent you Joseph. Where's Joseph?" And he goes, "I don't know, Dad." And one brother picks up a coat, dripping in blood. And he goes, "We found this along the way." Can you imagine for 1 second? He loses his wife. He loses her son. He's knees to the grave in grief. And time goes on. And there's no food. And the brothers go down to Egypt, and something strange happens. This viceroy, remember the story? This Joseph became the viceroy of Egypt. They didn't know. This viceroy knows stuff about the family. He says, "You're not coming back until you bring me your Benjamin." They come back, they tell Jacob, "I need Benjamin." He goes, "No way. He lost his wife. He lost his son. He goes, "This is all I got. I lose Benjamin, I lose her." And they go, "But Dad, we're getting..." He goes, "No way." And they go, "Okay." They come back a few weeks later and go, "Listen, Dad, we're all going to die." And one man steps up. His name is Judah. The rabbi just spoke about it. And Judah says, "Dad, I got him." It's like the cutest thing when like that 3-year-old goes, "Ma, do you want your brother?" And the sister and the 3-year-old's like, "I got him, Ma, no problem. I'll watch her. I'm 3. You guys can go to like Yoruba. It's okay." "I got this." He goes, "Dad, I got it." He goes, "You watch your brother." He goes, "Dad." He goes, "No, listen to me. You watch your brother and you bring him back to me safely." And Judah goes, "Dad, I promise you, it's okay." I was once I had a study partner with an Australian filmmaker. The guy sent me a musical score while we were learning this one piece. And he's like, "While we talk about Jacob seeing his children go, play this in the background." I was crying. I'm like, they should teach in schools with like musical scores around. Wouldn't that be amazing? Can you imagine? Jacob sees his Benjamin go. So they get down to Egypt and it looks all good. Everything's cool. The viceroy is nice to them, gives them a lot of food, fills up their bags full of stuff. And if you remember the story, they plant in Benjamin's bag the goblet. The brothers don't know. The brothers pack their bags, they go back home, they don't travel at night back in those days. And they all stay in this inn. And you can imagine if you were one of the brothers, what it must have felt like. You You got your food, everything's fine. You got Benjamin. You wake up in the morning, you get home, and you're going to be able to survive, and you're bringing Benjamin back to your dad. And I bet you Benjamin slept in the corner. And I bet you there was like a shmirah around Benjamin every second just to make sure the dawn would come up and they would get out of Egypt and back to Canaan. And I bet you just when they finally dozed off, there was a knock at the door. Bang, bang, bang. Who is it? Bang, bang, bang. Who is it? It's the police. Police? How can I help you, officer? How can I help you, officer? King invites you in, gives you grain for free. You steal his goblet? Go steal his goblet? You know who we are? We're the children of Jacob. We don't steal. He goes, really? Guess what? You were there, and then you left, and there's no goblet. He goes, well, listen, we didn't do it. He goes, how about this? This is how it works here. We're going to check your bags, and the person who's bagging it in becomes our servant. They're like, yeah, I got it. Remember the story? Bag, 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 bag. Benjamin, this is what we call in Hebrew, code red, bag. And the scene turns. But if you can for a second, just be there with me a little bit. Sorry, we're going to put the whole thing up here. I just need more distance to you. Be there with me for a second. This isn't like a bunch of yeshiva guys putting on a play. This is ancient Egypt. This is an actual palace. You can almost like picture a palace. Remember like what we think of palaces, like marble floors probably. There's a guy in the corner like on a bench, on like a big old couch eating grapes. I don't know why they all ate grapes back then, but apparently all they had was grapes and like eating grapes. I'm talking about like the togas, the whole little thing going on. And you can imagine like the whole court, a huge thing and a big throne. And finally it says, everyone goes, all rise. And Joseph, hidden under the concept of this viceroy, walks up to his throne and sits down. And Joseph is sitting there. And probably next to Joseph was Benjamin in a toga and chains. And in front of him were 10 brothers. And he goes, what do you have to say for yourself? And one brother steps up. And they start talking. And they go, listen, you don't understand something. He's young. We're bigger, we're better servants. Choose us. He goes, Jews. Stop talking. Boy's mine. And they go, no, you don't get it. We've got a father, and the father's old. And if he doesn't come back, he goes, Jews. Stop talking. Guilty. Boy's mine. And he goes, no, but he goes, Jews. Go home. Stop talking. Boy's mine. And 9 Jews turn around. And 1 Jew steps forward. This week's Torah portion starts with 1 line. My opinion, greatest line in the whole book. One of the greatest lines in the whole book. Vayigash Elav Yehuda. And Judah steps forward. You can imagine he stepped in, there's probably like 40 spears at his neck. Vayomar, and he said, Bi Adoni, excuse me, my master. But there's a great commentator named the Sfas Emes, who quotes a great man named the Arizal, which is fun for the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim in the world. And he says that's not what he said. Vayigash Elav Yehuda, Judah stepped forward, Vayomar, and he said, Be inside me, Adoni is my master. Judah turned to Joseph and said, Oh, wow, you are so scary. Oh, I love the whole thing. You mean, oh, you put the plan, oh, we're getting it. Oh, this is great. Oh, we come down, you set them up, goodbye, Jews, and we run away with our little tails between our legs, and we go back there. Oh, I get it. You must not know who you're talking to. Maybe you didn't get the memo, my bad. Here's the dealio. You see, we look like we're regular people because we're in togas, and you think that because you're the king, you're going to do whatever the heck you want. Let me tell you how it works. You see, you may be a big shot, but inside me is the creator of the universe. And if you think we're just going to walk out of here without a fight, you got another thing coming. So either you give them, or we have a go. He must have been from Brooklyn at one point. I'm guessing. And at that moment in life, something was born. There's something that got created in the history of the Jewish people, and it came with one man named Judah. Because in history, we have made one of the greatest mistakes of all time. We live in a world, and someone asks you, where is God? People say, there. What, there? I pray there. I don't know, he's up. God's there, where? I don't know, above the clouds. He's always looking down. He's always like disappointed in us. By Yom Kippur, like if you're good and you can fast for 25 hours, say I'm sorry, for like a full month beforehand, maybe, just maybe, will you get, not in the good book, please, do me a favor. You're not getting in the righteous book. Maybe we'll put you in the middle book. We'll make you a Benoni, D or F. Maybe if you cannot die during the fast, you'll get a D, and you're like, thank you. And God's up there, like, He gives you presents when you're nice, doesn't when you're naughty. You know about this character? You know what I'm talking about? We've got like Santa Claus. We call him God. Ask somebody where heaven is. They're like, I don't know. Heaven is, I don't know. There's a place where we go, we die, right? Don't we like go to like this place when we die called heaven? We're like, there must be like an escalator at this point, right? We go up to this place and like, I don't know, there's a lot of light. I'm sure there's a pool. There's got to be a pool. And there's got to be food, right? We feel like we die and we go to like a base-off program. That's how it works. Right? Oh, no, but there's bread, so it's okay. There's bread there. So you know what? We die and we go to a Sephardi base-off program. That's how it works. We have taken the concept of a creator. We have taken the concept of the creator, and you know what we've done with it? We have taken it and divorced it out of our lives. God's God, and I'm me. And He's always asking of me. And everything that He asks of me is always making me feel like I'm not enough. And I speak to people all the time, and they tell me, I'm into it, I'm not into it, I'm connected, I'm not connected, I'm affiliate. I'm like, that's all nonsense. Every single one of us is alive because what's inside us is a piece of the divine. In you and in me is more spirituality than you will ever need your entire lives. A Jew never becomes spiritual. A Jew reveals spiritual. It's all in there already. And the only question of life is, can I access that which is my right? That's what we all want to be great for. Because in our core we know, if I don't live a great life, I'm not living my true life. Because I'm not born just with a body. God's not up there telling me what to do. God is a piece of me. It's the stuff that I'm made of. Judah turns to Joseph and goes, are you joking me? Do you know who we are? Be Adonai. He's inside us. You think we go down to challenge? You think we run away from challenge? Do you know how deep we can be? You know how big we can be? You know how tough we can be? When I met my brother here, and at that moment, what was born in this world is called royalty. Judah is the first king. A Jewish king doesn't have the biggest palace or the most money or the most followers. We don't care about that. A Jewish king has one trait. He or she knows who they are. And when there's a challenge in front of them, they stare at that challenge and look at the challenge and go, do you have any idea what's inside me? You know how deep I can get? You think I'm going down with a challenge? Do you think a curveball in life is going to throw me off? And it's Judah's descendant that walks into, remember the story of the Yam Suf? When all the Jews come to the Yam Suf? It's Judah's descendant, Nachshon, that walks in and everyone's like, what are we doing here? Like, there's no boardwalk. Like, why are we even here for? Is there a hotel we can go to at night? Like, what are you talking about? God's like, walk. They're like, where? In the sea? What are you joking me? I don't know about being through the matches. I can't go into the sea. And everyone's like, no way. One guy turns around and goes, well, God said go. I'm like, but you're going to die. He goes, God said go. He goes, but you're going to die. He goes, guys, let's go. And there's one man, when all the Jews stood at the banks of Canaan, and everybody walked in, and everyone said, it's time to go take over. And they came out and said, there's huge giants there, and it's one man. Because everyone's going, listen, we're Jews, we got a lot of qualities. Sometimes like we can take on nations. We can do a lot of things, us Jews. We can negotiate really, really well, right? We can sue amazingly. We can heal people all the time. We can out-eat any nation by far. We can even out-guilt anybody. You know what I'm talking about? There is a Mossad division, I am sure, of just Jewish mothers that guilt the world into submission. They're like, no, say it this way. Say it this way. You got to make it a little more passive-aggressive. And nations come crumbling down. You know what we don't do? We don't fight. We're not tough. You ever see a bunch of guys come out of a bar and be like, yo, the yeshiva just let out? I don't want to, it's just weird. Let's just, I don't want to get into a fight with that. Unless like they're scared of their mom or something. Jews turn around and go, we can't fight in Canaan. We're going to die. It's one Jew. Judah's great-grandson that says, Allah no, Lebanon, let's go do this. Do you know how deep we can be? You know, we don't even know who we are. We're succumbing to a challenge. And it's that one Jew from Judah. It's the same line. Watch it throughout history. It only gets better. It's that one Jew. Remember the story of David and Goliath? Remember the real story of David and Goliath? I didn't know the real story of David and Goliath. People think that David was this master warrior. You know why David was even in the war for? You know why David was even at the battlefield for? You know what he was there for? He was bringing lunch to his brothers. Does it get less masculine than that? His brothers were all fighting. He's like, hey guys, turkey and tuna. They're like, but you gotta put the mayo on top and the pickles. He's like, no, I forgot the pickles. David, come. He's like, what's going on? They're like, well, this guy Goliath, he's the biggest guy we've ever seen, which means he was probably like 6'2". You know what I mean? And like, he's cursing at God and making fun of us, and no one's gonna fight him. And David goes, I'll fight him. And they're like, oh, that's so sweet. Remember the story? Even it gets even better. They tried to find a uniform for him, like something to wear, like battle clothing. You know that the smallest outfit they had in the entire army was too big for David. You know, like when you were playing like elementary school ball. I remember playing basketball in elementary school. And there was like one kid who was like 5 inches shorter than everybody else, and the small was his dress. And you couldn't block that kid. You know what I'm talking about? That was David. Can you imagine what Goliath is thinking? Like, really? This? What is he doing? My taxes? What is he doing here? David's like, listen, he's cursing God. They're like, yeah, but how are we going to beat him? He's like, he's cursing God. Like, but how are we going to beat him? He goes, guys, he's cursing God. Step up. We step up in challenge. We don't go down in challenge. When we get a curveball thrown our way, we don't look at the curveball and go, I'm not enough. We don't look around and go, someone else is getting there before me. We don't compete. When you look at a curveball, you say, you have no idea who I am. And being David, he figured out a way to make a slingshot, killed him, which he probably turned into a gun, sold it, patented, made millions of dollars, and now living in Israel, and he's learning in the mirror with his grandson. That's the real story. And by the way, this is our whole history. I gotta tell you something. Look back in history, you will find our nation is built off the backs of those few members of the royal family. Us. That stare at the world and go, you think I'm going down? What do you think the Maccabees were? They were a bunch of priests. They weren't tough. But they said, enough is enough. But you're going to die. I don't care. I will never give in without trying my hardest. And by the way, look at the state of Israel. The state of Israel, if you remember this, the state of Israel was founded, in 1948, there wasn't even an air force. Can you imagine going to a war with every Arab country around you and no one was able to fly the plane? You know that there's a great documentary, I've seen it before, where World War II veterans would come in and fly planes. You know where they get their planes from, ironically? Where they get it from? Germany, of all places. How in the world do you go from 1940s to 1960s? You know how you go there? Because a bunch of Jews come to the shores, and everyone says, hi, welcome. I'll give you 15 minutes to leave, or we'll drive you into the sea. And they go, listen, we are never leaving again. We drew a line, but you may die. I don't care. But you may cry. I don't care. But you don't know how to fight. I don't care. You don't have a Mossad. I don't care. We're never leaving. You have no idea who we are. Don't you understand this? Don't you get this? We're home. And what's inside us is so much bigger than what you think is inside us. And if we have to sit here and figure it out, we'll figure it out. And if we have to go through pain, we'll go through pain. But we are never leaving again. And only because a few Jews stood back in their homeland and said we're never leaving, does the entire Israeli military come from. And in every single marriage, in every single family, and every single friendships, and every single job, and every aspect of mine and your life, you can look at our lives, and there are times where we stare up and we're looking at Joseph as the king, and we're going, there is no way we can get out of this. And it is in those moments that you define who you are. Because who you are is not what the world says you are. Who you are is who you know you are. When things are hard, when challenges are thrown, because when challenges are thrown, either you dig into a place you never had to go before, which is a place beyond physical, or you don't really believe it's there. Do you know who we are as a nation? We're the nation that brought to the world that God is not up. You don't kiss up to him with rituals that are meaningless. That is not Judaism. God is in. He's in me and you. He's in the food. He's in the world. He is in. And that's who we are. And you know what we're fighting for? To never, ever forget it. to walk with a bounce in our step, to stare at challenges thrown our way and saying, this is an opportunity for me to reach into a place that I've never reached before, but let me tell you something. I'm from royalty. I don't go down. That's where we find greatness. When you look at great people out there, either they inherited it or they stole it. If they didn't, they fought for it. It never comes with green lights. Just not how it's packaged. Great, and by the way, as I'm talking, think of the person you respect most in your life. The reason why you respect that person is because of what they've struggled with. Because that's when greatness comes out. Because me and you have it in us, and it's nestled in there our whole lives. And I gotta tell you, it's nestled in your life forever. It's part of your right. But when challenge hits, either we dig in and bring it out, or when challenge hits, either we cover it and say, I'm not enough. And that one perspective is who we are and what we're fighting for. And when our wheels turn on that, there's nothing that stops us. A month, a year, a lifetime until we see results, it doesn't matter. Because we're after the recognition of who we are and what we're fighting for. Let me end with this. My hero is my grandmother. I'll never forget this for those of you who have Holocaust surviving grandparents. My grandmother, I invited her to see my son sitter play. She walks in. My son's, those sitter plays, they're like little Jewish Rockettes, you know what I'm saying? Like they turn them into the vests on, they do that. We lift Torah, give us money in school. No, I'm just kidding. That's the lawyer to be talking. It's almost over. My grandmother's sitting front row. She survived Auschwitz. It's always 2 seconds into the play, she gets up and she walks out. I'm like, uh-oh. I follow her out and she's in tears. I said, Bobby, why are you in tears for? She says, Charlie, I just can't go back. I said, okay. She goes, no, I can't. I'm like, but yeah, you got it. I said, something bother you? Someone say something? She goes, Charlie, when I was a kid, I was in Auschwitz. I'm like, I know. She goes, no. One day, one of the SS guards, or whatever the guards they were, decided they wanted to, mistreat a woman. Let's put it lightly. And I wouldn't let them. So they beat me. And they just pummeled me. Teenage girl. And one of the SS guards were beating me up, what he did was, he took his boot and started kicking my head. But what he said before he stomped on my face was, we're not only killing you, we're going to kill your whole people. Just so that you know. And he kicked me in the head, and he left me for dead. And her sister found her, pulled her back to the barracks. So she said, how is it possible that the same set of eyes that saw the bottom of a Nazi boot can see not my son, not my grandson, but my great-grandson holding the book that they told me would be gone? How can one set of eyes see both of those things? And I said, because when you came to this country, you dug into a place in yourself and said, I am never giving up. You went through hell and you found that Bia Adoni inside you and said, you think that's going to stop me? You think the worst possible upbringing in the history of the modern world is going to stop our community from building centers, from having people in their homes for Shabbos meals, for bringing light into this world? And because you made that decision, you can sit at a table and see what happens when a bunch of Jews come from these shores and say, you have no idea who you're dealing with. When a Jew stands up and says, whatever goes in my life, you have no idea who you're dealing with. We're built with stuff that is infinite. And when we go through our Judaism and it's a bunch of rituals helping up, trying to kiss up to Santa Claus, it just doesn't connect us to who we are. But we realize that a piece of that divine is how me and you walk around. And what we do every day is when we see challenge, we dig in and say, I'm royalty. That's how you build nations. That's how you build Israel. That's how you rebuild America. That's how you build true greatness. And by the way, and if no one recognizes it your whole life, who cares? And if we don't get the fans and the followers, and we're doing the best that we can for this country, and some yutz walks into our shul in Pittsburgh, and who cares? Who cares? We don't need the world to tell us how great we are. We don't care about some guy shooting up a shul and saying the Jews. We don't care. As long as we know it right here. And it is my blessing to every one of us that we never walk around our lives and we don't see ourselves for the royalty that we are. And you find that royalty when the challenge comes big. Judah doesn't become Judah without Joseph taking Benjamin. That's just how it works. And when all of us, because if you're not in challenge, you're not living. And when all of us go through our lives, and I hope we have green lights in everything that we want. And when the green lights come, thank God and keep on rolling. But when you get that curveball, every second of every day, when we wake up and go to bed, if we'll never forget who we are, and we never forget what we're fighting for, then I believe in my heart we can accomplish anything. Thank you very much.
Brios, that humanity. Mr. Harary, we come from a long line of David with tuna and turkey sandwiches to boot. We grew up in a household where there was an expanding Shabbos table and more soup, more water, whatever it was. And she had her fair share of challenges. But she knew who she was, as you so eloquently spoke toward, that she has 23 years after her passing, her best friends seated in this room. That the china that we use in our household was the best quality, and that the humanity that we see in our own children was the gift that she gave to us. So in that biblical sense, it's a humbling experience for a brother to see my own brother living your words and her life. She died when she was 56, but she left an indelible mark. An indelible mark. But chickens cost money, ladies and gentlemen, and tuna sandwiches in the boot. And all I can urge you is to take this diamond in the rough that MJE is and continue it and help my brother pay it along. Commit yourself, whether it's spiritually or financially in some way, to make sure that what Mark does will touch another generation, so that they will find themselves in such the eloquent way that you brought us this evening. Thank you all for joining us.